All right, so today, Back to the Future, 1985, Robert Zemeckis film, Universal Pictures, Steven Spielberg present, starring Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover. So Michael J. Fox, he's this 17-year-old high school kid, and for some reason he hangs out with this crazy Doc Brown guy, played by Christopher Lloyd. And here's the first scene, and it shows Marty in Doc's crazy little workshop where he's got all these inventions that kind of only half work. And Marty's your typical high school kid. He comes in with a skateboard, and the first thing he wants to do is fire up the amplifiers for his guitar, and he turns them all the way up to the highest level possible. And I think we all know what happens next. Not a good idea, right, Marty? Anyway, Doc calls and he's like, "Hey, I need you to meet you over here." And he realizes that he's actually late for school. So here he is, he's in high school, his principal's a real jerk to him. That's his girlfriend, Battle of the Bands, no big deal. That's his girlfriend, they're getting close with each other, save the clock tower, head back home. There's his dad, there's Biff. Biff's a real jerk, his dad's a real dork, kind of dweeb guy. And you find out later that Biff was rude to the dad in high school. This is his mom, his sister, his older brother. They're all part of the movie in a very minor way. So he wakes up, he says, "Hey, meet me." Doc Brown wants to meet Marty in the parking lot. They're going to do some science stuff. Out comes out the time machine. Doc's like, "Hey, I was in the future and it was crazy." And he's like, "Let me tell you about the future, but I can't tell you too much because it'll mess up the present." And then all of a sudden, here come these terrorist guys, and they're going to want to kill him. After all this chatter, 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 flux capacitor, and here comes the plutonium, but there's these terrorists that want to actually take the plutonium, and here they come, they shoot him, boom, 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 dead. Marty sees it, and he's like, "Oh no, I gotta get in the time machine." He gets in the time machine, and it's already set to 1955. He flies back in time to 1955. He lands in some people's shed. They think he's a crazy spaceman from the comic books because the comics were getting crazy at that time. So he lands, he realizes, like, what? We're back in time somehow. And he's got to hide the time machine. He tries to get in some inconspicuous clothing, but it's not that inconspicuous. He shows up at the diner where he always goes. He sees this guy. He looks up Doc Brown. He's going to go find it. Oh, he runs into his dad. Not good, because he knows that he's not supposed to mess with time. So he can't really run into his dad and change the timeline for the future. Here's Biff. Remember I told you Biff was a real jerk to his dad? Well, this is why. And this is just an example of it. And his dad's a real pushover. He's a real dork. This is the future mayor. And Marty's like, "Holy shit, I gotta go meet up with my dad." He falls. The dad's peeping on somebody. The dad falls out of a tree, gets hit. The dad's supposed to get hit by the car. That's Lorraine, his dad. That's his grandpa. She's supposed to hit him. Hits Marty instead. Marty falls in love with the son. Lorraine falls in love with Marty, which is not good. And fix the TV. It's the uncles in jail. TV says they got two TVs, which is a joke because nobody could have two TVs back then. Anyway, he goes to meet up with Doc Brown. Doc Brown doesn't believe who he is because he's from the future, but then he mentions the flux capacitor, and Doc Brown believes him because he got the flux capacitor. He got the bump on his head. He knew how he got the bump on his head. So anyway, old Doc Brown. This is young Doc Brown, but it's really old Doc Brown. And he's telling them all about time travel. And they're like, "We need to get to 1.21 gigawatts." And they know that there's a bolt of lightning coming from the storm and the clock tower. So they're going to try and harness the energy of that bolt of lightning and use it to power up the time machine to travel back in time. They'll travel back to the future. So anyway, in the meantime, he's got to fix the relationship between his mom and his dad since he messed it up when he fell out of the tree and the dad hit him instead. So he's got to somehow repair that relationship and get the mom and dad to like each other again. Not easy. All this stuff's got to go. So he's got a whole plan that he's going to get his dad to be cool and fall in love with the mom and take her to the enchantment of the sea dance. But here comes Biff to mess it all up, and Biff's gonna kick his butt. And so Marty goes and steals the kid's skateboard, and he does this like awesome '80s skateboard moves that they never saw in the '50s. And they're like, "Who's that guy?" Calvin Klein is the joke because that's what his underwear said. And then Biff's in the manure, and then All right, back here, Lorraine shows up. She's the mom, and she's starting to fall in love with Marty, and that's not a good thing. So he's got to go back to the dad, convince the dad to be a man, ask the mom to the dance, and kiss the mom so that they can all go back in time. Meanwhile, Marty's writing a letter to Doc saying, like, listen, Doc, you're going to get shot. I know I'm not supposed to tell you, but you got to be safe. Then they're doing the dance, the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. This is where they're staging it so that the dad can come in and hit Marty, and then, you know, the mom's going to fall in love with the dad, and it's all going to be good. But what happens is Biff shows up, and Biff going to kick his butt, but then here comes the dad thinking that it's Marty in there. It's all staged, but it's actually Biff, and it's a real emergency, and Biff is going to have to knock him out. Boom, punch, punch, punch. Biff's down, and then, but it's still not good because they haven't kissed yet. They're on the right path, but they haven't kissed yet. Unfortunately, the guy in the band hurt his hand when they tried to get him out of the trunk, so they need someone else to play the guitar. Luckily, we already know from the opening scene that Mario knows how to play guitar. He plays this song. They like him. Then he like rocks out, "Go Johnny, go go go." Go Johnny, go go go, and it's like he's, the OG rock and roll all of a sudden. But then they're like, it's too crazy. But anyway, they kissed. He's all good. Now he just needs to get back in the future. So he's here with Doc. They need to rig up this situation so that they can harness the energy from the lightning bolt and travel back in time. A lot of crazy stuff happens. He still wants to tell him about how he dies in the future, but Doc Brown's like, no, you can't tell me. It'll mess up everything. So they go. Doc Brown barely gets him to go into the future, but they do succeed. He does harness the power of the lightning bolt and sends him into the future. But here we are back to the future, and Marty's still concerned that Doc is going to die from the terrorists, and it still happens, and he's all sad. But turns out Doc actually did read the letter, wore a bulletproof vest, saved it. So they're like, hey, drop him back off. Cool, cool, cool. Everything's a little bit different, but still the same. He at least likes the way it is now. And Biff's not a jerk anymore. Biff is now the pushover, and he's like washing the dad's car and stuff. And the dad is a sci-fi writer. And he's got a sweet truck. And he still has his girlfriend, Jennifer. But then Doc comes, and he's like, listen, I came back from the future from 2020, and everything is crazy. We're going to have to go. And then it makes way for the sequel. And that's Back to the Future 1. Hope you liked it. Catch you guys later.